This is my first time in 3 years that I've taught it live again, so everyone's gonna have to give me grace again. It's different on Zoom. So we'll get started today. I actually had a question though. Who has been in the business for over 5 years? Okay. And who has been in the business for less than 5 years? Less than 1 year? Perfect. I love having this class for all dimensions of real estate. One is that we have been, those of us who have been in the business for a long time, it does not mean we know how people are pricing houses and appraisers are pricing houses. It gives you another leg up that you do it. And if you're fresh in the business, you get the opportunity to walk in with a market valuation that has an education behind it, right? It has step-by-step, it's repeatable, and we're able to use it to win listings every single day. There are going to be possibly some changes that are in here with this class. If you have not signed in, please do so. It's going around. And if you need a pen, we can also pass that around for your name tag as well. All right. So there's a lot of you that have taken this class before. Sometimes you take it over and over. Sometimes it's fresh. Who's brand new into this class? And is everybody this is program agnostic, so everything has to be? Is everybody from a different brokerage? There's a couple back there. I know that's cool. Well, you're welcome. We're excited to have you here.
And I've only taken it 3 times.
There you go. Mm-hmm. And it is fun to take classes different times. One of the things that I know about this class specifically, obviously, is there's updates, right? Sometimes as I'm going through different like appraisals and stuff like that, there's updates to like the square footage that they're doing, and we can talk about that. In this last year, one of the biggest updates is how that they're pricing houses for a different market. So for instance, they were using numbers they were actually taking off percentages, and there was a formula for that. As we move forward, we're starting to see more than one offer again as rates go down, things like that, less time on the market. So we're probably not going to see that going forward. But appraisers take a little while to catch up with that. So if you start seeing things like they're not necessarily giving you the highest price in the next couple months, even though we're seeing multiple offers, that's pretty normal. This class also gives you a chance to fight those appraisals. All right, let's start. It's just a quick little thing that how a seller sees their house, obviously, right? If you walk in and they have a price that's really maybe blown out, or they really don't know, but a lot of times they want to get the most for their house, so their number is going to be pretty high. Or they see their neighbor's house and they said it was $567, and really that's not the number for their house. A buyer obviously wants to get the best deal on the market, and the appraiser is going to do a formula and a system, which is actually what we're going to work on today. In all of these cases, I use this system. So when I'm coming in with buyers, I'm like, does that seem like a fair price for the house? Then I can do a really quick market valuation if I need to, if that's the data that they need. And then the bigger thing for me, obviously, is walking in with my sellers and having a very clear number that has data and information behind it that I really don't have to fight about price with my clients. I haven't had to in a while, at least. So what is a market valuation? We know that to be clear, I'm not an appraiser. You never want to represent yourself as an appraiser with your clients when you're talking about this information, right? That is a licensed entity that is different than us. However, if we're going to use the same tools or the same general system of that, you can say that. You can say, I am not an appraiser, but I want to say that, but I follow how they work their numbers and their data information, and we're going to follow that same concept. Does that make sense? It is not an assessed value. An assessed value is actually what the tax man does, right? It's the little card in the mail that says what your house is worth. This last year, I think they just based it all off of Zillow. And then we've seen a lot of reductions maybe this year a little bit for some people in some areas, which is great. Usually an assessed value needs to be about 10 to 15% below the market value of your house. So your tax value. And we did not see that this last year. For instance, mine was absolutely at market value or if not higher. All right, so there's different appraisal approaches. The first one is the sales comparison approach. That's the one we're going to work on today. That means the sold homes in the area, the homes that are potentially pending, and we'll talk about what they're looking for in that. But it's the sold resale homes usually. If you have a new construction, they're going to do something that's usually probably similar to cost approach. They might combine that with a sales comparison for the neighborhood. but they are gonna do something a little bit different there. And then the income approach, we're not gonna go through today, because I said approach too many times. Is the income approach is something if you have a mixed like commercial building or rental property or something like that. So if I had a rental property like a duplex, they're going to use both the income approach, and then they usually use the sales approach in two different things and pull it all together. If that makes sense. This is a workshop. You are welcome to stop me at any time. It is 2 hours of talking. But I just want to like raise your hand if you have questions, or slow me down if you have any other questions, because we're working on this together. So it's not me teaching a class, it's a workshop together. So let's just dive right into it. We have your guides there. There are, some of this has been really updated in there, but you're welcome to put, in fact, please just register for this class so we can add you to this worksheet. So going forward, if I make changes, you can always just open it back up. And I'm going to go over this, but we will actually walk through one together. So it's going to make a little bit more sense if that helps. So an appraiser always takes sold homes in the neighborhood. They're going to use anywhere from 4 to 8 sold homes. If they can't find a sold one, they might use a pending. They always try to stick within 2 miles of your sold home or of your home. Now, if they cannot stick within 2 miles, so for instance, in maybe rural Enumclaw, I'm from Enumclaw, so I always use this as an example. But you don't have houses necessarily within 2 miles. If I've got maybe a farm or a ranch or something that's everything's 5 acres or more, they will stretch out for that. They always have to write a note on why they went further. So these are the general criteria for them on what they're looking for. And yet if they have to stretch out, for instance, if I'm in Tacoma, I'm probably going to find a ton of houses within that like a half mile. Or if I'm in a rural area, I might have to go up to 5 or 10 miles just to find something that matches my criteria.
What do they start with?
2 miles.
That's the beginning?
Yes, they're always going to look within 2 miles. Yeah. So that's what I start when I start this process as well. And I'm just going to stick with the general guidelines. And then if I have to make changes to that based on if I can't find anything, just understand the appraiser can't either. It's really easy that way, right? Like a lot of questions that I get are, what if I can't find anything? Well, the appraiser can't either. So they're going to have to make some changes. Maybe they have to go out further, or they have to add some, different criterias into there to make sure that it works. Okay, so square footage. In Pierce and Thurston County, we're at $35 a square feet. What this means is if your house is 1,000 square feet and your comparable home that you have in here is 1,500 square feet, they're going to find the difference, and it's $35 a square foot for Pierce and Thurston County. King County and Snohomish County are $55 a square foot. When I'm talking to my clients about this, please understand that I let them know quite clearly. I'm using the majority of the appraisals that I get through. Some people are a one-off, right? Not every appraiser uses exactly the same method. This is 99% of the appraisals that I get through. I get to go through them, check them, see what their numbers are working at, and then I put that content into this class. I never like surprises in real estate. So it's in my best interest to tell my clients, hey, if we get a one-off or somebody does something wonky, we're going to do our very best to fight that as well. We're going to price it like the majority of appraisers do, right? Go ahead.
When you say square feet for Pierce and Thurston, you're saying $35 per square foot.
Yes. So the difference in them. So if my
the difference in the counties.
The difference they do, like South Washington does a different square footage per house. So King County, Snohomish County, for instance, if I have a house that's 1,000 square feet and another one that's 1,500 square feet, I'm going to adjust the difference by $55 a square foot, and we'll go through them together to show you exactly what that means. It is based on the comps. So each comp that we're going to adjust to be like your house, and we'll walk through that. Keep up with the questions, so I really love them. Go ahead.
So one thing we could probably do to be maybe up to date is check what the one sold within the last 3 to 6 months and do an average of the square footage.
What they're going to do is they're going to take anything up to 6 months, right? And in different markets, you really want to probably look a little bit closer. So their limit is usually 6 months on an appraisal. And they're gonna take, your house is gonna be here. Let's actually draw it. And they're gonna take these different comps and they're gonna adjust them to be like kind for your house. So if their square footage is, if this house is 1,500 square feet and yours is 1,000, they're gonna add or subtract based on that. And we'll make sure that you understand, because sometimes it is a little bit funky to understand. I promise you it gets easier and easier and easier. So I'm gonna have to find the difference between 500 square feet. If this house is bigger than mine and I wanna make it like mine, I'm gonna actually take, somebody's gonna have to figure this out for me. I don't math in my head. 55. Say what it is?
27,000.
Did you use the 35 square foot or did you put 55? 55.
Did you say Troy?
Troy's only in King County.
So that's what I was referring to. Right there, that's what I was referring to. Like if those 4 houses maybe.
They generally are doing that based on what it is to build in those areas. So that's the difference in
I'm
those,
trying to-
right?
yeah, that's what I was trying to find. Where do you come up with that 35?
That is what they're coming in with in almost all my appraisals. That's the only way I come up with any of this. So you could do the same thing, by the way. You could skip my class and ask all of your buyers to send you your appraisal.
Oh.
Figure out what the numbers are going through right now. That's the only way that I figured this out. And I've been in real estate long enough that I did a lot of short sales and I had to fight a lot of people. That's really how I came up with this system. So I opened up every appraisal, I figured out what their numbers were and their formulas were, and then I realized it was super critical to everything that I did. Okay, so same thing. So here's our house. We've got 1,500 square feet. Mine's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And I'm just gonna do this really quickly and then we'll move on to those things. They're also gonna adjust this house to say, hey, this one's a 2x2. They've got an extra bedroom at this. I'm gonna add 5,000 to make it like my house. Does that make sense? That's what the process we're gonna do. Okay. So bedrooms are 5,000. We should talk about if there's a space like maybe, and we'll talk about split levels and things like that, but if it's below grade, there's a whole different criteria stuff, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. Bathrooms, a half bath is 3,500, a 3/4 bath is 7,500, and a full bath is 10,000. Garage bays are about 10,000 per bay. I've seen them change to 7,500 and now they went back up to 10,000. This is a really great one though, because if you are talking to a husband or a guy and he says, I've got this amazing shop, the truth is that he's got probably a very different value on it, and you can talk very clearly about how an appraiser is giving you 10,000 per bay. So if he's got a 4-bay shop, easy, 40,000, right? There's not any difference. However, we should talk about a little bit about covered parking, because covered parking still has the same value as a garage bay. Yeah.
So a
carport is the same. There's no reason for it to be.
Right.
Troy.
So if you have let's say you have a shop that's a 2 garage doors.
Yes.
Fit in 4 cars in it.
Yes.
With that, yeah, maybe like a tandem, or
That'd
that
be a 4-bay.
be a 4-bay.
Same thing when you've got a garage bay that's just got one garage door. So lots are acreage. It's a very simple formula and regular, like city lots. It's about $1 per square foot. It seems like a very low value, but remember, as you're doing these, if you're like, no, how would they keep the same numbers? The house prices are the things that are changing there, right? So if if the market and the sold homes near there are going up 20,000, 40,000 per month or whatever that number looks like, or going down even in price reductions, and they're selling for a lower cost, that's what's going to make the big difference in the appraisal. So what I would do, the numbers I would get in Seattle, I could still use the $55 a square foot in Seattle, because the houses, the comparables within that 2 miles are going to be that big adjustment. Okay, so we can talk about lots of acreage in a little bit, but honestly, you probably need to take it. David is landman, he's amazing. So AC or heat pumps, just AC by itself is 5,000 and heat pumps are usually 7,500. Does that number make sense to you if you were going to install an AC or a heat pump today?
So when you're doing a calculation, if they have AC with the heat pump, are you adding those two values?
Nope, just the 7,500. It's a great question.
What if you have a generator with that?
Not an additional. And sometimes those generators are built in for instant start. Most of them are just attached through a plug in that. So there's some things that really aren't going to get, if it's not built into the home, and usually I don't ever see them on there. There are things that I haven't included here, like jacuzzis, pools, and sheds. Like a pool can be up to $1,400. A jacuzzi could be $7,000 or $14,000. I'm sorry. And pools don't really get the same value in Washington that you would in other states, though. It's just more of an inconvenience. Jacuzzi 7.
So much of the
14,000.
sheds
Sheds also get that, and they're usually about 15,000.
Sheds,
Sheds.
like a garden shed?
Like an outbuilding. They'll just call it outbuildings.
Okay, so a pool is 14.
And use your wisdom on this. Like if you're looking at a dilapidated, falling, you know, are you really gonna give it 15,000?
Which was it?
15,000.
How big?
Yeah, what is the size?
Outbuildings are usually just counted as outbuildings, and every single one it's like the same price.
Even the ones that you get like at Home Depot for $500.
No, not the little plastic ones.
Okay.
Yeah, like a built.
But a built one. Okay.
You know, do tidbits from
Yes, we'll talk about you in a little bit. This page specifically is things that seem very consistent throughout all of their appraisals. Does that make sense? We will also talk about anomalies where it's just kind of their decision, like views. Those things don't really seem to have a systematic approach to them. It's really their personal opinion of what that view is worth.
Have you seen anything about solar panels? I mean, I know we don't have that many here.
Yes,
Curious, yeah.
I have not seen any value adds for solar panels.
But where they add the solar panels, but they didn't add the value. Because I think I did do research that for some guidelines, they have to be paid off.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And we're going to see this coming up, so it's a great question. This is coming to Washington more and more and more. In fact, we have one of the very best states for solar energy, even though it's cloudy like this. So Germany has one of the best as well, and we're pretty much parallel to them. So there's solar panels will become a thing more and more as we go along here. One of the things that you mentioned was like, do they have to be paid off? A lot of people will get loans for solar panels. And then when they purchase the house, surprise, now you're stuck with that loan. It's not transferable, or, you know, you get to now pay off a $20,000 loan you didn't expect for a solar panel.
They do have bridge loans go on their solar panels.
Yeah. It's worth investigating. If you see solar panels, ask questions.
And then one more question, like Tesla charging stations or anything.
No upgrades for that yet. Most of the stuff they're gonna do when you're required to have on a house. Does that make sense? They will give upgrades for things like upgraded surfaces, you know, countertops, of course, maybe a luxury kitchen set up there, but, and obviously updates too, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but it's, for the most part, like those things that you just want to add for personal reasons, they don't give a lot of updates to. A couple of years ago when I was teaching this live, so a long time ago, we had some people asking questions like, my client just put in $75,000 worth of windows in their house, and they really want to get all of that money back. It doesn't work that way. You have to have windows in the house, right?
So it's new windows.
New windows add marketability, but the price that you paid to buy the most expensive windows does not give you any return. Does that make sense? Like, you have to have windows that work. You have to have windows on your house.
But they don't have to be.
And if you wanted to upgrade a broken one or something like that, that's pretty important. And just because they chose the best windows, they're not going to get a return on that. Not from the buyer or the appraisal. So fireplaces, 2,500. So add or subtract depending on how much they have. compared to their comparables.
Vary from gas to.
It does not. No. Same thing with heat, by the way. Gas heat or gas like forced air does not get any extra value over, say, a wall heater.
What about homes that have more than one kitchen? I've seen some that have one.
Yes, there will be stuff on that. So, like if that would be hopefully coming up even more and more as we see people do ADUs or DADUs. Dadus. Sounds like I'm a kid. Dadu. So that's going to become something that, so it kind of, and again, it's using your logic in this situation. So if a kitchen's usually worth about 15,000 for a second kitchen, if it's got like a burner and a beer fridge, nobody's going to do that, right? So it really has to be like a full kitchen to be able to see that. And the same if you have like, go ahead.
You see that the appraisers making a differential between a mother-in-law or a second kitchen that's permitted versus unpermitted.
So what they do in my experience, because I've had to go through this first, is that if there's unpermitted square footage or unpermitted space, they're going to have to find comps that are additionally unpermitted space. So one of my rental properties has an addition that was built onto the end, it was never permitted. And so when I refied it, you had to go find all comps using unpermitted additional space.
A follow-up question, are they looking in a wet bar or a second kitchen? Are the appraisers looking for a second cooking space or are they worried about just?
Well, actually, even kind of weird about it. So we've had a couple of incidences where they didn't even want to count the second kitchen. But I always, in any case, I'm going to maybe explain those things to clients, right? So appraisals are, you know, they're maybe getting kind of weird about kitchens. When I price your house today, I'm going to make sure that I add every bit of value into there. Is that fair? Right? And if they come back and they, for whatever reason that they have an issue with the second kitchen, it's not permitted or something like that, we'll adjust as necessary. But is it fair to probably price your house with the most value that I can find? Yeah.
So how about upgrades to the second kitchen? I could take granite countertops.
Yes,
instead of for
there
my
will
place.
be. Let's go over that in just a second, actually. So date sold, or excuse me, of age, it should be within 10 years. So not looking at 1945 with like knob and tube or 1986. Does that make sense? I mean, it's going to be as close as possible. This might be one of those things that I might, maybe if I could find enough comps, I might have to stretch that out a little bit. It's another great one probably, both on distance and on age.
So, but when you have something that is within the 10-year range that is close to this new construction, how do you?
So if you have, give me an example of that.
So we're in 2023, it's a 2020, so there is no 10 years back, but
Yeah.
there's not really a 10-year forward. So then how do you?
I would just adjust to 2020 or somewhere around there, yeah. And just make the, you can also adjust with those, it's $1,000 per year. So if you have to go outside of that area, then you can say, okay, I got only 1975s and this is a 1990. That's not going to be a very great comparable, but if you have to make the adjustments because that's the only thing you can find, just understand the appraiser's going to have to do that too.
Anna, on that, is it $1,000 starting year 11?
Yes. The great question. Yes.
What she said?
Would you count wood stove or pellet stove is the same as a fireplace? So would it just be the same $2,500 value?
I do have a question on the age. So within 10 years, you don't make any $1,000 adjustment per year. So like if it's a 94, it's 96.
Correct.
It's 2,000.
Yep.
1,000 house.
There are some additional things too that they're going to count. One is location outside of just within that 2-mile proximity. So if I've got something on a busy road and they'll put busy road or noisy on there, and the other one would be like a quiet residential neighborhood, they will adjust about 10,000.
How about corner lots?
No difference for a corner lot. They're going to adjust the lot size though, and a corner lot generally has a little bit more space. So
And
they're
there's
gonna
no
make that
adjustment over here.
They don't adjust for like privacy if there's nobody butting up against you on all 4 corners or right. or 3 corners, could have a driveway. I guess.
All your comps, back to square footage, do you bracket it like 20% higher or lower than that square footage, so 700,000 square feet? How far, how big, or how small?
That's a great question. I'm gonna start off with like, let's say it was 1,500 square feet. I'm gonna start off with maybe like 1,200 square feet, and I'm gonna go up to 2,000. I don't have a formula for that. If I can't find anything, I might broaden it a little bit. Does that make sense? And then adjust. So the most critical is like kind. When they are doing this, they do not go outside of the scope of if it's a single story, they get a single story. If it's a split level, they use a split level. If it's like a 2-story, then they're going to use that. You could add some criteria like a 2-story with a basement. They will do that. Or a 1-story or 1.5-story with a basement. Those are some additional fields that you can look in. But other than that, you're not going to see a split level with a bunch of 1-story comps.
I keep running into the issue where I have manufactured homes with no comps. In that case, because if there's not, I mean, I've gone out like 5 miles sometimes and here.
Yeah.
And so I've had some people tell me just to single story. I mean, I had a listing in Sumner that even it's because it was on its own land. So, yeah. So like, would you then?
I just go up further.
Okay.
I would not go upstairs, especially for manufactured to single story stick over. Yeah, so sometimes, like I had one in Carbonado, for instance, and the appraiser came out like 25 miles. That was not necessary, but that's what they did. And sometimes it really depends on their knowledge of those areas. Right? There are people in rural areas, in my experience, that appraisers don't want to give value to the houses. I don't know if they don't want to see their city grow, or they're, they like their like little hometown or something like that. They want to keep it at 250,000 per year. But they don't. They really don't. They really don't work hard. Where some of these guys around that are local, they're going to say, we see growth, we understand growth. We're going to go ahead and work with the comps the way they are. And that's why it's always good to explain to your clients that appraisers have their own mind. So date sold, we talked about that at 30 to 60 days if it's a seller's market. I don't like to go past that. There's nothing, if we're getting multiple offers, I really don't want to like look at something 6 months ago.
Isn't the context typically true on resale that they're only trying to value PSA?
It is not necessarily.
Okay.
Um,
What are some of the perspectives on that?
But I would say 90% of the time they end up at the value on the PSA. But you do get ones that are 10,000, 15,000 above that, or you do get ones that obviously are lower, right? So with any human being, I think if you have a number in mind, you're going to come pretty darn close to that. Or maybe they are, and they're not telling us, but the rule is that they're not supposed to. Purchase and sale agreement. So if you had a sold home for $500,000, are they just trying to find the $500,000? In a sense that they are. Now on a refi, truly they're really just looking for.
On somewhat tricky CMAs or valuations for appraisers, I've had appraisers reach out to me and ask me for how I determine about just to go through this.
I haven't seen that in a lot of years. I'm actually shocked by that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
If there is something tricky, without a doubt, I will say to the appraiser, hey, I wanted to drop something off. I know you're the professional here. I don't ever want to devalue their professionalism, right? You know what I mean? I don't want to say, I'm giving you my comps because you need to find my value or something like that. I know you're professional, just in case it makes it easier for you to find some different comps that I have. And then when they look at this, a lot of times I get the same comps exactly, right? Because it's using the same word as that. It doesn't look exactly the same as their appraisal, but it's using systematic and repeatable enough that they don't. It helps me, right?
Or Like another thing I've done is left like a one-page sheet on the kitchen counter that shows my clients put $40,000 in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Irrigation system, or just something that, just a quick one pager that shows the value of what's been done to the house.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll also leave my CMA there.
Yeah.
Just-
They do look at your listings online though, you guys, and they do look at the tax records and they do look at all of those things. So, all right. Does anyone have any questions? Actually, I'll go back if we, well, maybe I'll go back. Apparently I won't. Hold on. Does anyone have any questions on this page? No? Okay.
How the style, how do you, what's the style of the home?
The style is the 1-story, or if it's a 2-story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So these are the idiosyncrasies, right? It's the residential lots or acreage that there's developable lots, for instance. Again, I'm referring to David on this because he's got a great class that helps explain how they're going to find those things. And actually, these numbers are outdated for, you know, potentially developable lots. And David, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but when I look for stuff, I'm going to find lots that were sold based on if they still have to be developed or if they're already in lots. And I can just make a quick CMA for those things. It doesn't take me a lot because there's not a whole lot of things to compare it to. I don't have to adjust up and down for bedrooms or bathrooms. And I can just go through the MLS and figure out what people are selling developed lots in their area for. Is that how you are doing it with more?
I would answer
with
that
more details?
yes, but there's still the data in the MLS is so inaccurate.
Yes.
That you can't really pin anything on it. So what I do is I go to the title company
Yes.
and I get their preliminary plats that are sold and do the calculations and I get the final finished lots that are sold, but that stuff's all off market. You can't get it, you know.
Yes.
There's very little data like that in the MLS. So that's one of the most accurate and precise ways to get it, because otherwise, if you look at a listing in the MLS, it might say an acre, and it's owned RH, you get 8
Yes.
lots, and they maybe will only get 2 lots on it.
Right.
With other issues. So it's those kinds of variables.
So take David's class when he does it again. Hopefully I'm prompting him to do it again soon. And it is there, he does have some great resources for that. It's a lot more complex if you've got land that people are saying, I would love to develop that. It is easy though to look at the zoning. So if they've got 1 acre and it's RA5, you guys, they're probably gonna have a lot, it's not gonna be worth going down the research road on that, right? So RA5 means like rural acreage, and you can't build 1 house less than 5 acres. Now they have an acre lot. Obviously people subdivided a little bit smaller, but that's not something you would list that for, right? A view. So we talked a little bit about view being kind of one of those anomaly things. Mount Rainier, for instance, usually has about a $10,000 value and then partial views, you can see anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 of the sound, for instance. Views of trees or your neighbors obviously don't count for anything. But it really is going to be up to that appraiser's discretion. So sometimes we're going to see like a full sweeping Puget Sound view, and sometimes I see it for $35,000, and sometimes I see it for $15,000. Maybe it's a day that it's cloudy and they don't see enough, right? Or maybe Mount Rainier is hiding. It does all the time. That's why the whole mountain is out things going on. So it's worth, if you do have a view, maybe notating that like Troy would do, putting maybe a picture on the counter or something like that so that they can get the full scope of the view. Except, say that again.
So view can be, how, because I've seen people who, that's my bathroom and I can see Mount Rainier from the bathroom.
Yeah, from the tiny corner in the master closet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it. You really wouldn't have probably much value at all. Yeah.
So,
It's going to be like a pretty good view from just standing normal in a normal location. An appraiser may give it that, but just be honest with them. We really don't know what they're going to give. They normally don't give any kind of additional credit to you on the value of your house when it's a peekaboo view from the corner of your bathroom. Right? And the same thing with any of these. Hey, you have a beautiful view here. I'm going to go ahead and give you an additional $3,500 worth of value in your home with the understanding that an appraiser may find different value. There's not a systematic approach to that with them. It's more on his perception of how good your view is. And just making sure that you're very clear with your clients is the most important thing. You're still the professional at that point. You're still preparing them for what could potentially come up there and attempting to get them the most value for their house. Okay, so updated features, we talked about that. That is a really big one, and we're, so it has to be within the last 5 years, the updates. There is no appraiser that's asking for receipts. So if it looks dated, it is dated. If it doesn't look dated, it's gonna probably get that same kind of value. I have yet to see them over $3,500 unless it's luxury though, or 35,000, excuse me.
I was gonna say that.
35,000. So 35,000 would be like if you have gone ahead and did all the flooring, the countertops, the kitchen cabinets, right? Updated the bathroom, those kinds of things, where you're gonna have to use your wisdom on this too. If it's just carpet and paint, it's probably maybe $10,000 or $5,000, depending on what they've done there. If it's just flooring, it's probably just $5,000. But so you will have to kind of figure that out, like what they're doing actually is there's not a chance that if I fully redid my house, it was probably $35,000. Let's be honest, right?
That's the max.
Yeah, I haven't seen over it yet. I keep looking.
The kitchen alone costs over 35,000.
It's for your enjoyment. I mean, initially they do it for their enjoyment, right? And that's what they're looking at it as. You're doing it for your own enjoyment.
When they're choosing comps, maybe they're gonna choose a comp that is also updated, that's sold for more versus.
You might not have any adjustment at all.
Right,
Exactly.
Right.
versus picking a dated.
Yeah, they're not gonna find a piece of crap and then try to compare it unless that's their last option, right? And the same thing with when we're talking about like flipped houses or things like that. People are like, there's no way, how did they get that money if it's only $35,000? Well, hopefully they bought it for 70% or less of the value of the remodeled house. That's where they're getting that value in there. So below grade features split levels. Split levels are, if you get them, put in the extra additional work to figure out the value and be very clear with your clients. Below grade, if it does not have any updates to it, it's really got like $10 a square foot value. Some appraisers give it no value.
What do you mean by below grade?
Below the ground.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so there's some split levels that, you know, if you see a split level and it's got like a 2-story stairwell basically that you have to go all the way up. And so the first level is actually not really below the ground. But most split levels are kind of coming in at kind of a mid-entry point, and part of it is below the ground. So $10 a square foot for below grade if it's unfinished, and same with basements. And then sometimes they'll give you half credit. You always have to have, if you want a bedroom down there, you always have to have basically grandma has to be able to crawl out, right? That's the easiest way to remember it. It's got to be really accessible to be able to escape.
I thought the
Grandpa's
fire-
stuck.
Grandma has a longer life.
I thought the fire in the house bill was fire in my house.
Depends on if grandma has a good insurance.
Ingress and egress for safety reasons. It has to be heated. It does not actually have to have a closet. It's been a couple years, and there's a lot of continued confusion around that. You said heated and window, heated and window, and ingress, egress, basically.
So I have a question about, so sometimes, you know, when someone has a basement or living space below ground, and they have drywall around the walls.
Yep.
But the underfloor of the upstairs is exposed. Maybe they finished out an unfinished basement, but they.
But they didn't finish the lid.
Right.
Okay.
Is that counted or not?
I haven't come across that. I wish I had an answer for that. I would not think that it would be counted as fully finished. In fact, it's probably a fire hazard.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely that.
So, so my guess is from that, my guess is that an appraiser would say either you have to have this finished as a fire hazard, or I probably won't count it without me ever seeing it happen before.
So just talking through this, if you're valuing a split level, you're gonna comp it to other split levels.
Yes.
And if you're comparing data of other split levels, is also partially or underground. Let's just say it's in federal way, would you take the square footage at just $55 a square foot? Or
I need it for work.
just
But you put the work in here, clients, which is really, and it really is a ton more. So I would adjust the main floor or above grade, is what's probably you can see on there. And I would do the $55 a square foot. That was the worst five ever. And below, it would be just a $25 a square foot. Or if it's unfinished, it's zero. So it's just exactly right on.
Okay. So how much is that below?
Below grade is $25 a square foot.
And the main?
Is 55.
And that would be King County, for instance, or does that make sense? About half.
And above ground, it will be counted
The full. So anything above grade, it will say it on your tax records. So sometimes it takes me just a little bit more work, right? I have to flip through each house that I'm doing and pull up the realist report or whatever and figure out what the recorded square footage is for both level. But it doesn't take a ton. It really doesn't. I can tell you after doing this for so long, it's pretty much my elevator speech at this point. But I could probably rattle these off and do most of these CMAs. It doesn't mean it's the first time I did it, I could, but I can usually do them 10 to 15 minutes. So it sounds like a lot of stuff, but it's really not as complex once you get used to it. I mean, most of the time you're doing bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and maybe lot, right? And then getting the little weird things like ABC. That was it. Okay.
Question for you though, going back to bedrooms with without closets.
Yes.
So, because I had one where on title it said it was a 3-bedroom, but that 3rd bedroom did not have a closet. But yet, being in so long, we've been told it has to have a window, it has to have a closet, it has to. So what are your thoughts about it? What have you heard or?
I mean, it doesn't have to, it's not required anymore. It's about 2 years maybe or so that they took that requirement off. And you will hear a ton of different opinions on it, but I've asked as many as I can find and it's not required. Sometimes I'll just throw like an IKEA armoire out there if I really want to. They're like, forget this, I don't want to deal with it, right? I know it's gonna go away, it's $55, well spent.
How many data points do you want for sale pending sold?
Oh, let's go through that a little bit if we can pin that one, because this one I'm gonna get the exact price that I believe that it could sell for with the current solds. Just solds. I do, however, add a couple of pending and active in there, and that's just to give me a general idea, but that's not what I'm gonna base so an example would be, I'm gonna get you the most accurate value based on the current solds on the market here. And when I come to the table with you, now I want a sheet that shows me what the market's doing, right? So if I get $555,000 for this, and I know that we can do that, but the market's really slow, and I've got comps out there for $548,000, I need you to know that, right? Now we're gonna come to the table and look at the market and see what's the best decision for you. But we've already come across a really solid data. The conversation just becomes easier when you have the data behind your words. Okay. Next.
So going back to bedrooms, but the house is on septic. It's approved for 3 bedrooms, but
And
they have 4 or 5.
You could tell us
that
it's
they could be listed for 3, but when you value it, are you listing it as 3 or are you very?
Whatever I can legally do is what my price is gonna be, and I said that isn't very good.
You just count the other bedrooms as square footage.
You're gonna get some
compared-
adjustments on square footage, yep.
I have a question for you. If you're, and this is just a market one-off thing, but whatever. If you're doing, market analysis for your database, let's say, give them just values, updates. With DADUs and ADUs coming into play, are you giving them any value if that's a potential for them. I know that's potential, so it's kind of hard to say. But
Like,
also,
as if it's not created yet, but they might be able to do it down there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could, if that's the direction you're going with them, right? So I wouldn't necessarily do it on every, like if I was gonna, after I took this class, you guys, I would be like, hey, I'm testing my new market valuation system. Who needs their complimentary market valuation? Take this as an opportunity to market to your clients, right? Try it out. If I was marketing it that way, or I say, hey, have you ever had any interest? Great talking point. I don't think I would do it for everyone though.
No.
Yeah.
No. But then also, in areas where there's really been this influx of infill, so meaning they're selling their house and either someone's gonna buy it, tear it down and build something up there, or a family's gonna buy it.
Right.
Like, how are you valuing it where there might be in a situation, Seattle specifically, okay, where either one could happen?
Right. So like you've got a 1956 house in Seattle. The options are people could tear it down and build a brand new,
Yada, yada.
whatever.
12 units.
Or you could have people that are like, I love this Craftsman. Well, that's not Craftsman, but yeah. I would just price it based on the market valuation for the similar houses in the area.
Yeah. Price on whatever value.
Yeah. Because your other option would be to have priced it like it was gonna be just land value. And that wouldn't have made
And that would
sense.
be way low, yeah.
Mhm. So get your highest value on your resale.
Well, maybe, I mean, if the value's worth $1 million, but the house would be remodeled, and the house is worth 300,000 time. Marketed as a home that needs some love and
Well, you're still gonna find, so a couple of ways that I do that for, I've got one in Black Diamond right now. And it's like 1902. It's like on jacks, part of the foundation. It's got no siding in some parts. It's really a fixer, right? So I kind of had an idea. I went over and looked at it the other day. I mean, there's electrical wires hanging all over the place, and it's got knob and tube. It's just got a lot of stuff. And so I did two different market valuations. I did one for what it would be worth if it was completely remodeled. And then I did one for based on the current, cash only ones in the area. And I obviously could not just stay in Black Diamond. There was not enough. So I had to go to Auburn, and I had to go all over the place for that kind of stuff. So I had to stretch out in that situation. It really gave me a really good idea. Not only do I get to come to the table and say, hey, if you do the work, could be your list price with somebody, and it gives them both options. It feels very fair and it feels very honest to them, right? If you did the work and you could put in the time and the money, this is what we could list your house for. And if you can't, this is going to be what current cash only investor properties are selling for. So I'm not walking through the door saying, $315 or $275 without giving them all of the information. Additionally, now, because I know that full sales price of if it was remodeled, I can say, does that make sense? If an investor bought this for 70% of the value right now today, does this number ring true? And it's a double check on me, in a sense. And I'm able to show them all of the information. So they really feel like, not only do they feel, we know what we're talking about. How's that? They don't feel like it. We know. All right. Does that make sense? Did I answer that? No?
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, it was your question.
Originally, we just had a discussion.
Yeah. It's a workshop. That's what I love about it.
So when you do an appraisal, do you, gonna fix it up?
Yes.
Can you, because, I mean, it can be out of hand if you have a budget and you get out of budget and whatever, when you're doing the remodel, can you kind of foresee what the potential price probably would be?
Yes.
Not knowing how much the remodel will go, or you just have to like.
You really just need to do it based on if it was fully remodeled, what would it be? Or if they're only gonna do a partial remodel. So an example might be, gosh, we can really upgrade and fix the electrical that's a problem in this house, right? We can do the roof in this house because it would not be able to get a loan if we didn't do those things. But we might not be able to like redo the whole kitchen.
So you basically stick to the budget for the remodel.
You're gonna find
Be able
comps that are
foresee.
similar to that.
Yeah, I think from an investor's mindset, like if it's a flip or something, most investors are gonna look at the after repair value, the ARV, take 80% of that, and then subtract the construction costs.
That's a great point. And that's gonna be maybe like if you want more information, reach out to people that have possibly do it. Troy has ideas, you know, I do. There's people in the office that have been doing or maybe been through more of a different investor market or had investor clients. They can help you walk through that. Those are all kind of idiosyncrasies, but each time this system can be used to find those numbers, which is great. It's repeatable. I love repeatable. Waterfront. I'm just going to leave that as find somebody who has waterfront value, knowledge, right? There's so many things that have, there's the linear feed of the waterfront, there's low bank, high bank, medium bank, there's decks and docks, and there's all sorts of things that go on there that it would be probably not worth our time to teach in this class, but it is important if you get it. And unless you're specializing it, it might be a once a year thing, right? Okay, condos. We're gonna talk about condos really quick. This is just, yes,
On the luxury, the 75 square feet, are you
Yes.
adding if it's luxury $75 per total square feet?
yes, yes. So, go
The
ahead.
Definition of luxury, is that?
It's a great question.
County or the jurisdiction?
Nobody knows.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
What is the definition of luxury and how, honestly, how is an appraiser gonna decide what's luxury? It's really gonna be through surfaces, appliances in the kitchen. You're gonna see like sub-zero fridges or those kinds of appliances that make sense. I have seen them, you know, use a kind of a regular appliance area, but maybe it's on like Redondo that overlooks the water and the community itself is fairly luxury, right? There's not a real set thing, but you kind of know if you know. Does that make sense? And I don't have a better, because I feel like that's the answer that I get from appraisers all the time. I do not have a better definition of that seems repeatable to them.
So it's not tied to a price point.
It's not tied to a price point. In fact, to be in KW luxury, for instance, is not really like, what's the definition of luxury? Is it over $800,000? Well, I came up to
No,
Seattle.
yeah. Actually, we qualified in 2 counties this last year, and so it has to do with that. I don't remember the formula, but because we sold some homes over the threshold, we qualified as luxury. And they had the metrics.
They did have a metrics. There is a metrics, but I mean, if you're thinking about it, like $800,000 or $1 million might be in Eatonville, might be a different one than in Seattle. Right. Yeah. So luxury is kind of, KW luxury has some numbers that associate with that, but I mean, luxury itself, it can be very different. $1 million in Seattle is very different than in Eatonville. Okay. Anybody else have any questions on this one? Yeah, every county in every state. Yeah, for sure. Even between North Tacoma and South Tacoma, right? What's the difference? There's a big difference. So we're going to talk about condos, and this is just my opportunity to make sure that if you're a new agent, you truly understand. It's just my interject into my class, basically. That condos themselves, not all of them can be FHA, not all of them can be VA. I have links for there on how you can check and see. So not only if you're the buyer's agent, but you are going to go out and check and see some homes with them and they're FHA approved. You do want to check for the best ones to see if they are FHA approved. Just because a listing agent puts that on the listing does not mean they checked, and most of them didn't. And it's your responsibility when you list a home to check first before you put different kinds of financing types that will not qualify. So if it's an FHA or a VA, there's a link. You can type in the address of that place or the location. There's all sorts of variable ways to do it and make sure that it's qualified, because you would hate to get all the way through and learn that your condo is only conventionally financed and you've listed it and accepted offers from the wrong type. And you don't really want to show houses to people that don't qualify either if they're not qualified. So it just gives you a thing. Also condos for appraisals though. So I have had them look back 2 years to stay in the same exact complex. It is infuriating. You're like, something for 2021 would be the same price for 2023? Doesn't make any sense. They won't always. Sometimes they just look in, like, if it's Des Moines, they're gonna look in Des Moines within the 2 miles. And then sometimes they will just go back on the tax records and look within the last 2 years and they stretch it way back there. So understanding that is more just a conversation with your clients. I'm gonna look as much as I can in that neighborhood, of course. If they've only got 10 and none of them sold in the last couple of years, then they'll probably either stretch out or go way back.
And does the difference in the HOA dues reflect the fair value at all? If one, no?
Back in like 2021, crazy time frame, I saw some appraisals coming in with like a market adjustment because homes were appreciating so much so quickly. It's that much more, but
Not seeing it as much anymore with normalized out. But we saw it a lot this last year. More as the end of 2022. I would teach that formula today. If I was sort of it's a little bit great power. It's really kind of like, it's funky because they've got all sorts of things that you should factor, right? Like they're going to find the comps from a certain time, they find a percentage, and then they adjust every person based on that percentage. So it takes a minute to wrap your head around this. So let's just wrap our head around this, but it is a great point. Because this stuff that you want to watch out for if the market changes rapidly, they're going to start moving backwards. So like, for instance, the beginning of this year in 2023, we were seeing a lot of prices like 2022.
I have an appraisal where it came in at value, but because the appraiser used the word declining or use that word, just that word, the lender requires the buyer come in with additional $10,000 or something.
Does anyone else
Even
have
though
that
it
happen?
came in at cost, but it was because he used that one word, declining market is what he used. And when I talked to the appraiser, he said, no, it's fine. He said, if you look at the 12-month history, it's declining, but if you're looking at the 6 months,
I've never
then
had that happen.
yes, that happened.
That would make me crazy.
It did.
I mean, how a lender could come in and say, hey, this came in at value and you still owe us some additional cash is nutty to me.
Right.
Has anyone else had that happen?
Yeah, that was the first. I mean, it threw me for a loop.
What was the lender again?
Not what we want to use,
Yeah.
but yes, it came in at value, but because he had mentioned the word declining.
Yeah.
He, the lender was requiring the buyers to come in with additional funds.
That's just an
And I
honest
had never seen
statement.
that.
Is it declining or increasing
Yes.
market? That's crazy.
It happens the other way too. I mean.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we sell something for more than the solds are, right? For years, for the last couple of years, we had seen people have to come in with 50 or 35 or $100,000, or in the east side, it was quite a bit more than that. I wouldn't even say the number, it hurts. But that makes sense. And one of the things that I was able to tell my clients is I love the fact that people are coming in with cash, because that means appraisers are still doing their job. They were kind of doing their job the last couple of years. It was pretty ugly. But when you see people come in cash to make the difference, does that mean that if a market starts to decline after that they will maybe have to wait a little longer? Yes. But that also doesn't mean it also means that they're not going to fall on their face. Their loan is still the value of the house, right? All right, this is an idea of an appraisal. So I wanted to point out a couple of different things on here.
It needs one page.
I'm not going up here, and don't forget, if you sign in, you can get a copy.
Yeah, if you sign in, we'll give you an actual.
Thank you.
I noticed that.
Man, girl, like, hey, girl. I feel like my grandma.
Got that for you.
Right?
So you can see that this property here is actually, it's one of my rental properties, right? And so that was the sale price of it. You can see the busy road. And yeah, so that's the difference there.
What's different?
Busy road.
Oh, okay.
And then these other ones were residential. So they took off $10,000 because they were better roads than my, and they're making it like mine.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Wait.
Would that be the opposite though?
No, because mine is on a busy road, theirs is not. So they're actually making it like mine. All of your comps are gonna try to take and make it like mine by adding a subtraction. So it's almost like a little bit of reverse.
Oh, I
Does that
see,
make sense?
you're right.
That
You're right.
confused me for a minute.
It's confusing, yes. Hopefully we don't make mistakes over there.
Wait, so a busy road,
So a busy road, like it was a noisy main road. It's got a lot of traffic on it, a lot of
so
traffic.
it takes away from the value.
It takes away from the value. So you can see the site, again, they adjusted for square footage of the lot. These are just normal city lots again. It's not just, it's not rural acreage. It's two different ones. You can use that same stuff up to like probably about 2 acres, but also they are gonna look for things like wetlands. They're gonna look for stuff that just is not usable acreage. They aren't just going to give the full value of land for people if it's just dirt, right? They will look for slopes. Slopes that are just not usable land, and appraiser will adjust for that.
I have a IUB question. I didn't get this appraisal. I mean, I've already done my CMA with my, that it's going, it's great. Do I ask for it? Does,
Hey, you get your appraisal, did you ask for a copy of it? I would love that.
okay,
Helps me continue my research. They have the choice, if they don't wanna do it, of course, it's their property, technically.
But you get it from your, most buyers don't know that you don't.
If they don't,
So they're like, oh,
you
you
don't
don't
get
get
a copy, yeah.
Seller is not the top.
the seller's right, okay.
No, yeah,
Only
this
the
is
buyer.
buyers only, just the buyer. And this is
So
really
what's
only
the buyer
value
give
for
to you?
research, right?
Yeah.
It keeps me on target, makes me understand if there's changes that are coming tomorrow. View, again, you can see there's no difference, they're all territorial is what you would have marked that residential, right? Design, again, they've got the same. Quality of construction, these numbers actually go back down. So Q4 is like, yeah, Q3 gets a little bit better, Q2, Q1, right? That's the one, so if the one is the,
is there one more scale, or do you see that?
I don't see that, there's a
But like condemned.
I think that facility in Q4, I like that. So actual age, they're gonna adjust for that if needed, but if these were all close enough, they would not. And then condition also has something. So you've got quality of construction and condition. Condition is actually gonna be where you usually find your adjustments for upgrades. So like if I had quality of construction here, they might make it as some kind of exterior adjustments, for instance, if I had all the siding or something like that, it's not very common. But condition is usually where I'm gonna see those upgrade numbers. So if it's, if I've totally updated the inside, I might see a $35,000 adjustment there.
Yeah, I did see them 40.
There's a 4 and a 3, which makes one better and not. So that one on the right.
This one's better.
That's better.
So it's going, it's taking it off because it's making it like mine.
Right.
So the lower the number, the better.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like C1 basically for us.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. And same with Q1. So Q4 is bad.
What's the difference between a dated kitchen and an upgraded remodel kitchen? Is there a difference?
No, well, I mean, we're just do the visual, right? Like you've got new counters, you've got new cabinets.
But if you have one like Formica versus granite countertops and really beautiful kitchen versus one that hasn't been remodeled.
You wouldn't get, so it's about 15.
15 is
Yeah.
the top.
15,000. None of that. If that's what you were asking, right? Not like, can you just tell the difference, but. it's
So
value.
15,000 is what you get, because kitchen
Yes.
goes up to 100. But you only
Sure,
have 15.
but that was under their own decision to make, to spend that extra money, right? Like,
Kind of like the same with the windows.
Yeah.
They get to decide how much they want to invest in their home for their enjoyment, but it doesn't mean that the person who's purchasing it is gonna.
Because I was told you get dollar per dollar when you invest in it.
it's never going to be,
No.
an appraiser's never gonna ask you for any specific receipts or anything like that, right? It's just gonna be, hey, if you just did the kitchen, you're probably gonna get $15,000. If you went ahead and did all the flooring and the painting and, updated all of those things, you're probably gonna get like $25,000. And if you did the bathrooms too, 35.
Tops, but that's for the whole remodel of the entire house.
Yes.
not just the kitchen.
Yes.
And
Lene,
there's
did you
a-
have a question?
No, I was just gonna say, however, if your client, because I'm like Troy, I do a list with each of my listings. like,
Yeah.
Give me
As
some
much as possible.
information on stuff you've done in the last 5 years. If they put a corny countertop, and, I mean, you know what I mean? They didn't do like,
Yeah.
they just put,
versus
right.
like.
Yeah, but it's all new,
Mhm.
right? I would still tell the appraiser that, like, hey, in this past year, or my client did new countertops, new cabinets, maybe they did cheap, less expensive.
Like
cabinet.
Home Depot box caps,
Right.
right?
And then a less sweat out countertop, and entry level appliances. I mean, if all of that stuff was done in the year, whatever, I would still tell the appraiser that, because they may look at it and go, it's just average kitchen. But
It's still new product.
It's still brand new product, right? So I probably would tell them that.
Yeah. It hasn't puffed up like those Home Depot cabinets will do yet.
What do you do, or is there any value for like outdoor living space?
Yes,
We're seeing sometimes like.
yes. Covered patios and covered porches also have value too.
But what if there's like I know somebody that has an outdoor kitchen.
Yeah.
Is that just marketability versus?
Yeah, it's probably gonna be like
actual
$5,000. You don't get a full value for an outdoor kitchen generally. But actually front porches, the covered front porches and back porches get value up to $15,000.
Wow. How do you determine that value?
Level of shadiness, I don't know.
Maybe the size, if it has concrete and all of that.
Say that again.
Maybe if it has.
It's big. So like on my back patio, I have a huge back patio cover, right? That would get probably the full $15,000. But if I had just a front door that it had like a tiny
Shade.
droplet in Federal Way or something like that, I would get value for that. I just would probably be much less.
What about covered decks?
Yes.
And if it has a view and.
Well, views separate. Don't
That's
don't
separate.
include that together. But yes, I mean, all of those things do get covered areas get. I mean, you're thinking about like an outbuilding that can get up to $15,000. Well, heck yes, my covered patio should do it. Hey, if a covered parking space gets $10,000,
Whether I have a garage.
yeah, I should be able to get something for my covered patio. Yeah. Oh, here we saw outbuildings at the bottom of this page. It's a great idea.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, they gave
So-
15,000.
15 on that one. Must be an impressive outlook.
For-
They don't, I mean, they're
for a
just a built
shed?
shed, right? They're
It's
not
a
the
shed.
plastic Rubbermaid ones. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, like
But
the
it's a built
5,000.
Shed, I see it all the time.
Does it need to have power to it?
No.
Or
No.
just structure?
Just a building.
Oh, build it for
Has a
us.
lawnmower in it.
You can get that she shed.
Okay,
So-
She shed.
I want to, my yard's too small.
So one of the things you'll notice on here, heating and cooling, no adjustments,
Because you see one is electric, one is gas, and it doesn't change
yeah.
anything.
doesn't change a thing. Siding, you know what, I've never seen them change siding, it was like. I've never seen them get any credit for that. They don't even. Now, it's more marketable,
So your
clients may be able to sell it to somebody for more money.
comp must apparently have a porch where these other three comps don't. You see the $2,000 up?
Yeah.
That means yours has a
Front
porch.
porch.
Your front porch covered.
Yeah, front porch. Yeah, it's got covered.
Because for my bills. we already have a-
1922 porch.
Ooh, can you put a rocking chair on it?
You couldn't even fit that.
Oh my God,
But you don't get dripped on when you open the door. That's it.
right?
That's what I was saying.
That's
You just said something that they are not valued, but might be marketable, what is it? You were just something.
So marketable would mean like, hey, I'm gonna list this. I think people will see value in this. Your appraiser's not gonna give you any more for that, but just so you understand. The buyers might think, that's great, I love that.
You're referring to siding.
Oh, sign.
Is there certain square footage you have to have for the front porch, covered front porch?
Not for house. You know, for every tree out there, it's covered. you'll notice on mine, this person had a fireplace, I did not have a fireplace, and they only gave it 1,500. I don't know the answer to that, but like, there can be little things. My number, 2,500 is what it's.
What about landscaping? If you had to, do with the landscape versus the other ones. That are gonna take that consideration.
Say that again?
You haven't seen it when not done once, so landscaping, marketability. I'm not saying that it wouldn't.
But that constraint is
It
to
would
the
be hard for me
curvature.
to see a house on this soil that's not totally, it would be 100% landscape and not maybe add to that some of the. Or even the condition or quality of construction, but I've never seen it like that. Apparently you just throw bark at a bed, it'd be good. And then the last one obviously is, I rarely see this, you guys, but they gave some credit for effective age. So if something has been upgraded legally, there might be some effective age value in there.
Anna, what if you have a home that's only 5 years old and there's only new construction,
Yes.
sold homes? Are you using those? I mean, are you making any kind of adjustments?
So give me an example. I think what you're saying is,
So
if it's 5 years, it's 5 years old.
Yeah.
And everything's selling this 2023.
Yeah.
And it might be going up in a different market, 5,000 per month or 10,000 per month, and negotiating these costs.
Yes.
I would not. I would actually wait and get something that's at least, I'd stretch out maybe a couple of years back from yours, or without, even up to 2022. But I would not do those new construction ones on there. Because they're gonna do the cost approach on that, and it's gonna be really hard. They're gonna do sales plus cost.
Yeah, because didn't you say 10 years?
Yeah.
This time of year.
I just wouldn't do something that's 5 years old. You wanna get resale in that case and not new.
Right now.
It's a great question, though. Thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions on this? Now that we know what it one looks like. So it is, what time is it really? 12:42. You want to take a 3-minute break and we're gonna go back and do one. Okay. 3 minutes is whatever.
Obviously, Dennis.
I have a bag of
Question
Yes.
on the unpermitted stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a little rambler, it was 1,008 square feet in Bonnie Lake, and we stole.
I'm listening.
And we remodeled and we took the square footage from the single car garage that was attached.
Oh, yeah.
And we built the subfloor up so it didn't feel like a
The garage is
conversion.
attached, and now you have it
We could-
basically as an additional living space.
Yes, we converted it, did a nice job, like didn't, like we raised the subfloor, so it
Easy
feel-
walk-in.
yeah, but we didn't permit it. So does that work against us?
No, in fact, they probably just use that as their square footage, and they probably won't do much about it. It would be if people added add-ons to their house, and if it was, so what your adjustments are gonna be is you're gonna lose 10,000 for the bank,
Oh, right,
and then you're gonna gain square footage,
for the bathroom that we added.
and you're gonna gain like those additional things. So
Right,
does that
okay.
make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah,
connecting the dots
it's a
with the
great
unpermitted
call
part.
on that, because a lot of people convert garages. and
Right.
They don't really go after them for any, like,
'Cause
oh,
they
that's
didn't
not a
permit it.
problem,
Right,
It
okay.
still was in the original footprint of the house.
Right,
It's just changed the value.
yeah, to condition space, right, yeah, okay, got it,
It's a
okay.
great question. In fact, I think I'll bring it up as we.
Oh,
we come back
okay,
on,
I
because
was
other
getting
people are
shy.
gonna have that question.
Okay.
We were totally.
You get it?
Fit right in right away. That's what I noticed. I was like, everybody worked.
Okay. I mean, you signed in and then you did not leave it for her. That way we can give you the, that way we can make sure that you give them the. Not signature. Yeah. Sometimes it's. You can't read it, I'm like. That's right. Boom. Some of us did, some of us didn't.
And I hate writing reference.
Question for you.
Yeah.
So I have a house that has a story with a daylight basement. And when we purchased it, we didn't know, I guess, like the inspector was not great, so it had a foundation issue.
Oh.
So we didn't repair it, we put piers down, all the way down to bedrock. Would that decrease the value of the house because that's been done?
It could decrease people when they get a report, like, hey, they had to have this stabilized, so it could decrease the buyer, right, like confidence, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But it would not necessarily decrease the value. of the house.
Okay, so it's a defect that has to be fixed, right?
It's repaired.
Okay, cool. And then it's, I don't know if it's considered a dwelling, have a separate basement, it's finished, it has a kitchen, 2 bedrooms, all appliances, so it's not considered a.
And plus, because it's daylight.
It's daylight
another
basement,
bonus too.
yeah, it has a separate entrance.
So, yes, you'd probably find like a really, I want those things out, but at 25 bucks a square foot, plus the bedrooms.
Oh, it's 25,
Because it's finished, but it's below grade.
okay, $25
A square foot. So you'd find other ones with basements, your ones with basements.
Yeah.
you'd find.
Yeah.
And then if their basements were 900 square feet and yours is 700 square feet, you could just make that adjustment, you know, or 200 max, 25. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And we'll go over one today. Yeah, but they've got a basement too, so now you get to add other upgrades. So if they've got a basement and your basement is just smaller, but now you get to add, they have 1 bedroom and they have no kitchen, right? You're gonna make all those adjustments because you can't get a big difference because you both have basements.
So how does it work when you, I guess, because it's 6 bedrooms altogether, so 2 of them are below grade, does that matter?
Nope.
Okay.
That does not matter, so you're still gonna get the value for all 6 bedrooms.
Okay, this is the fireplaces too. So,
Yep. So
okay,
all of those things are gonna,
but it's $25 a square foot plus what?
well, plus all of those extras. So if
Like
they
the
only have
kitchen.
1 bedroom, but they don't have a kitchen or whatever, you get to add and subtract value to make it just like yours. And we'll go, that's what our next move is to go do one together.
Okay,
So I'm excited about that.
cool, thank you.
You guys are the kids.
Oh.
But I want to go celebrate some other kids' Christmas, my Christmas. I mean, kids.
I wanted to staple it because I don't want to.
So we're gonna go do that. I need to figure out after that. Yeah. So he wants to be there. So I got to talk to Chris about that. I may be able to take that.
Yeah, I had everybody. Okay. Except for Celeste.
So. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah, you need it. It was and it's probably not silver.
The value, so I have $29. I know, for Pierce County? Yeah. That would have been 2021, the beginning, and 2020.
So I have this from one of these that we taught this class live the last time, was that 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like, it's gotta be easier to read. This is so small.
Yeah. Well, and don't forget, we'll give you access to the one that I just keep
It's gonna
updating.
be in,
It's in Google Docs, basically.
That's what it is. Yeah, because this one even said $2 a square foot.
Yeah.
So, and you do have something in your view is 10,000 average.
That's the same. Yeah. Yeah. Are we almost ready? I think almost everybody's back. So what I'd like to do is do one together. Clap one so you can hear me.
If you're listening, it should be more like clap one listening. Yeah.
But guys, you can still hear me. Okay, so let's do it together. And I think that helps a lot to be able to like see the system, and then we can all do it. So I'm gonna need somebody or a couple of people that have their calculators out because I'm not mathing in my head. And let's take your first step. So if you are from a different brokerage, you probably will not have something like Cloud CMA attached to the MLS. If you do, that's wonderful. But at this office, you do. So if you do not have that set up and you're brand new, then go see the leadership team and they will make sure that they connect you with Cloud CMA. It's free. It comes complimentary. We'll say that. It's free. Complimentary is better than free.
That just for us?
Yes.
Oh, not
Yep.
for other brokers.
Each
Keller Williams
office
pays
has
for
to
it
sign up
for
for their own. So there might be other ones that sign up. I just know about ours. How's that?
Ours pays for it.
So
CMA.
Cloud CMA. So it connects right here through here, the system, but here's generally, so an illustration of this house is needing a pen.
You want that? No, for the right, of course. Oh, okay.
I'm just gonna write a couple of facts about this. Can't read it. Be a doctor. There is one. We'll figure out some more facts about that down the road, but that gives you an idea of the house that we're gonna cost. One of my rental properties. So we're gonna start in Enumclaw and just start in your regular MLS. If you have a tablet, you're welcome to open it up and go along with this. And so one of the questions that David had asked is, am I gonna be looking at how many pendings, how many solds, how many actives? I do actually pull them up in here because it just gives me an idea of what the heck is going on, right? I'm gonna use only solds for my CMA, but when I start this process, I just kind of want an idea. I want to start out with some knowledge while I'm going through this. If you've been in the business for a really long time, or you are just starting, I would bet that almost 90% of the brokers show up at their listing appointment with a piece of paper off the MLS for the data that we're looking at right now, and that's it. Even if they've been in the business for 20, 30, 40 years. So your ability to do this is going to set you apart. Okay, so we go, and you'll notice all I did was type one story. Actually, I'm going to go back to one story and not make it 1.5 story because I changed the house I wanted to use without telling myself that. So there's 66 one stories in that area.
Which area is that?
This would be Enumclaw. So I'm going to go ahead and write just like within. Wait, pull it up. Move faster. trying, but it's not doing it. There we go. 52, that didn't eliminate a lot. People ask me all the time, like, how many do you want? I mean, somewhere around 25, 26, right? Because I really don't want to look at more than like 6 or 7. And I might want to look quickly through 25 or 26 and be like, yeah, I don't care about that one, or that one doesn't make sense to me, or something like that. But I don't really want to look through 100 or 55 of them. If you're having a problem, and then maybe you look at more. Or if you've got a ton of comps, maybe you narrow it down to less. It's up to you.
These are all sold right here.
These are actually a mix, so it's a great question. Actually, could I stop? I was going to repeat something before we went on and moved on this. During the break, Brenda asked me if we converted a garage in a home that's attached to the house and made it additional living space, would they have to find unfinished square footage in their comps? The truth is that most of the time they don't. So a lot of people will convert their garage space into living space. All they're gonna do is eliminate the garage, so 10,000 per bay, and add the finished square footage. And if you've got, bathrooms or whatever like that. So just thank you for letting me break into that, but that's a great question. So 52 is still a lot. I think it makes sense then to go in and see, hey, how many of those are sold? Because I may, there's still, what would be 3 pages of sold? I think I'm gonna eliminate that a little more, right? Because this is my very first page and I've already got the half of it. There's gonna be 3 pages of sold on that. I don't wanna do that. Go ahead.
So what was the criteria? Oh, it would be 100.
So
This house is in 1956. So what would you put on there for year?
46 to 66.
Yeah, or I might just do like minus 1965, right? That makes the most sense to me. I probably got some older houses in this community. I don't necessarily do a range unless I've got a ton. So if I'm on like South Tacoma, I might be very specific at my time. I've got a ton of houses in a small space, right? So I really want to narrow it down as much as possible. Or if I'm in another area, I might just be like, hey, minus 31965, because everything is different in the houses in that range. You've got different electrical, you've got different plumbing, you've got all these things that are changed. So let's see where that got us, if it would scroll down.
What county is that?
Enumclaw.
But would you not do just if the house was built in 1955, you said, right?
56.
Okay, let's say 1956. So then you would go back to 1966, but would you not come forward as well to 19?
You could, but you'll notice that I went from 1965 minus, which was the only criteria that I changed on there, and now I only have 11. So I might be looking at something that's 1945, but it still makes sense, right? So I don't really want to narrow it down even to just that 10-year range. Sometimes it's just tiny steps like, oh, okay, that narrowed it way down for me. I don't want to change that.
So I get you're narrowing it down to fewer matches.
Yes.
But what is your process for, because at the step before this, I look on the map. What is your process to make sure you're not accidentally eliminating a neighbor's house? So that when you get to the appointment, you're not even aware that their neighbor sold their house a week ago. Right?
But is it a 1985 and I'm trying to sell their 1956?
I may not include it in the actual evaluation, but I still want to know that it exists.
Yeah,
Right.
you could, that's not something that I actually look into as much. Now there is another step to this where I'm going to come with all of the stuff for Enumclaw. So I'm going to bring a portrait report basically from just the plain old MLS thing and say, hey, look, if people are looking for houses in Des Moines, for instance, they're not going to look within 2 miles of your neighborhood. They're going to say the whole city. We want to know what's happening in that area. And I would, during that time, probably make sure and look on the map and see if there's anything closer to them. You can do it at whatever point you want, because I think it's a valid point. If you came to their house and you did not know that their neighbor sold, regardless of the age, you might look like a tiny fool. So,
Right, and I think that's
yeah, that's a great point. And I don't have any space in there, but I'm always digging around. I guess that, but it's a super great point to anybody else who's doing this. Like, take a look at what just recently sold before you eliminate them. Yeah. if it's on the map is the best part. Yeah. Troy.
And so you're trying to pare down your search results, you start with characteristics of the home and not necessarily the time of the market. Like you wouldn't go back instead of 180, go to 60 days of sold.
Depends. Right now, I'd go all the way back to 180. In September of 2021, I might have gone 30 days and no more, right? So it really depends on what's going on in the market. If you don't know, if you don't have that experience with selling stuff in the house, then you do want to kind of go back and see, hey, I want to look past these 6 months and just start to gather knowledge, like what's happened in those 6 months. And can I find ones that are closer to what I'm selling now? Ultimately, your goal is to find them selling closer. But what if that eliminates too many comps? What if you don't have any? Then you can broaden out. So you might start off with something like 90 days. Oh, I don't have enough comps, right? There's not enough houses that have been selling in the market. Let's go all the way back to 6 months because I need that space to find enough comps. You could do it either way. I just generally stay with the 6 months unless I'm adamant that that market is way too far out and we know houses are flying off the shelves.
Or like Lene was saying, you wouldn't, you had 50, 60 homes that first popped up, you would change your radius to a mile instead of 2 miles.
You could do that too. So instead of saying the year built, I could have changed it to, you know, like that had 56 homes or whatever that were available. And I might have said, okay, I want to do it within the last 90 days. And that would have eliminated some. And we may find like, this is just a decision on how many homes I want. So I may click on this and see 11 homes only had 2 solds in that, right? Like I may have to make some adjustments for that, but you're going to be doing this with any market valuation. This is these first steps. So it's always a matter of like, how can I find the right things that are going to be the most suitable? The broadest range of them obviously is the best. And I really don't want to look at 1985 homes for sure with a 1956. I really don't. So I think that's a bigger deal to me on what an appraiser is going to look for. Yeah. And it could be something totally different, right? When I like the idea of you're like saying, okay, you know what? I could go the 2 miles, but I'd like to get it within the 90 days if I have too many houses. And so if it's like a 1985 compared to like a 1997, I'd stick with that formula as well. It's just kind of using your elimination tactics and dig around with it. And get like 5 CMAs this week from your clients and try it out. So this is 11. Let's just look really quick. There's still quite a few good souls, right? So let's just start digging through them. You'll notice that probably, so this house
It's way overpriced.
is way the freak overpriced. They might as well just say current days on market 224. And I'll bet you it's because Tom, Dick, and Harry convinced her that he has a shop and it's heated and it's worth like $180,000.
Yeah, let's see those pictures. I'm curious.
Yeah, let's do it. And we are going to look through each one of these. So if mine's, let me tell you a little bit about mine. Every place that I buy, I completely upgrade, right? I want my renters to stay there for a long time. I basically don't want women to move because they hate the carpet. That's the answer. So everything inside of mine, roof, exterior, all of these, they're, 1965 minus in age, but they're all going to be upgraded. You got quartz countertops, those kinds of things. So when you're looking at these, it might help eliminate some if they're old, right? Or not updated.
And you said no value, so like that's a brick home. When it comes to my insurance policy, I actually get a credit if my home is brick versus that. So that would not increase the E-value.
So on the appraisal that we looked at earlier, there is some exterior condition thing. I've never seen them put a difference in there ever. Sometimes when they get really busy, they get real lazy.
Yeah.
Real lazy. Like,
And when they're not busy, they.
or sometimes they get really shady, right? Like they're just like, well, I just marked 25 off every house in the neighborhood. Yeah, that's it. Right. It's weird.
So I have a question on that. So like, let's say they use 3 comps in an area and all 3 houses, because I think you said, no, you've never seen any adjustments for siding. So
Yes.
let's say all 5 houses they use as your comps all have hardy plank siding and your house has T111, right? They wouldn't give, any adjustment.
I haven't seen any.
LP setting.
Or even, yeah.
But it makes it less marketable or more marketable, right? I mean, you've already got damaged siding anyway, so you have to replace it.
I think that conversation is, hey, you've got T111, which is, you know, some eras of that T111 has been recalled, so I know I was talking with my hand up.
Yeah. I do it all the time.
But I think that's a conversation. We're gonna have, there most likely will be an inspection done. And this could be something that comes back on the inspection, so.
Yeah.
We may not, I don't think we need to lower the value, the list price of the home,
Right.
but it might be something we have to talk about as a credit if it comes up.
And you could even say something like they are allowed to adjust for siding. I don't see a whole lot of it. So we're gonna go ahead and continue to market your house like it's not a problem, right? With the understanding that it may come up on inspection with some issues in that,
Or
and that
the
you may
appraiser
have to.
actually- the appraiser might say something.
It could,
If it's delaminated.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. again,
it's poofy.
I think
It's the
good for us
official
to
word.
Notice those things and have that conversation.
All right, so, let's go through this.
Let's buy it.
Definitely there.
All of us together.
No.
So we can all buy a lower priced house? But this is very typical of this age, right? Like these are gonna have these arched doorways. It's got, so let's talk about this floor. It's got some like upgraded flooring, but I don't feel like it's super, like it's almost back to the Pergo days.
Right.
They've got some decent cabinets, but they're obviously not freshly updated, right?
For my time.
They got the old original counters. So if an appraiser came in here, do you think you'd find any additional value on those? It's got a wood burning fireplace. It's 25 right there.
So they would not give any credit for
That's what?
For the flooring, probably not. It's probably not that new. It's probably not. And you can't necessarily look at somebody's flooring and know that it's new. You have nowhere to sit in here.
You're gonna be hot.
For wait, what was that price again?
You're less, and how many house? Hold up.
It says it's 19.
That's what they're tiny.
So,
So small,
Yeah.
as big as that is.
It's the
Like,
way they took those pictures.
right? I'm like, what are you?
like, what did they
What in
take
the
it?
world?
Yeah.
I put a couple of chairs in there. So
Yeah.
they're not a sofa.
Take that couch out.
Get rid of the sofa.
So this always makes me nosy.
Oh, look.
I like being nosy.
Does it have a basement?
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Even the assessed value is 465, so. I mean,
Oh, it's
why
all
would-
supposed to be 1900 from the tax records.
They better have some gigantic bedrooms or something.
Yeah, you can't sit in that living room, but it's certainly
No.
1900.
You
Okay.
got more room than your standard dining room, and you do that.
So you'll notice some other things on here. There's new
Calling it a
gutters.
Den off the kitchen. That space is cozy with the fire.
Oh, it's just a
freestanding
den, like it could be more of a breakfast nook, really.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, get rid of a wall and make a break.
get rid of the sofa. Let's put a couple of chairs in there.
Rip it out.
What's the assessed value on this?
465.
Okay.
And like she said, 10 to 15% below,
It should be.
right? Well, that would only be at 465 if you added
The
45.
government is very confused right now. Not that that surprises anybody, but yes.
So, yeah, maybe.
We do notice that there's AC, but it does not say heat pump.
Does the RV parking add anything?
Not unless it's covered.
Because it's not covered.
So RV parking, that just gets lumped into the lane.
It's just land.
Dollars.
Yeah, it's just land.
So Anna, can you explain to me the difference between a heat pump and AC?
No.
So
I mean, yes, one takes the exterior air
right?
and changes that, but I am no.
We don't get much here for heat pumps here.
We get a lot. Well, we have a lot of heat pumps here.
I see it more in Florida.
I would hands down rather have a heat pump in this state than I would in another state because below 32 degrees your furnace has to kick on. So, yeah. So the note, no, I'm just not even gonna, here's what I would do if I saw this one. This is an active one. We're not even gonna worry about it, but it gives me a really good idea what my competition is, right? Which is
Right.
absolutely nothing. I'm gonna price my house right and this house does not matter to
Yes,
me
we
at all.
can see the shop. Can we see those pictures? Just go backwards, not forwards. Go forward.
This is
I know, right?
amazing $200,000
Yeah, let's-
shop.
That's it, right there.
I hope it is our photo inside. I mean, what makes it look
One-sided?
good? What makes it like?
We're going, we're going.
Nothing.
That's
Oh,
it.
that
No.
can't be-
Then you gotta keep
No.
going, it's huge.
It's got that.
You know, you saw it.
You seen it? You been in it?
She was already digging.
She's in it.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's it.
That's half of a
That's the
garage,
shop.
actually.
It looks large.
It's a good size. It's got how many bays?
That's got an RV.
It's a large.
It ain't $200,000.
No.
No, it ain't. Right, so let's just see, their covered parking is 3 covered parking, so what's the value of their parking?
30 grand.
30 grand,
Right.
that's
Not
it.
200.
Wait,
Nothing
did they
more,
have
nothing
covered-
less,
wait,
baby.
wait, did they have covered parking in the
Did they have a
actual
garage,
building, the car garage?
I don't think that they did in that house.
So the shop is.
The shop is it, and there was 3 bay doors
You'll
there,
park
so
on
that
the-
makes
you'll
sense.
park on the street, but you can, work in your shop.
Shall we all give her a text?
No, we should.
She ain't gonna respond anyways, don't worry. All right, so we've got a couple of different ones. Oh, this is Denise's. This is more like a duplex, so we're gonna move on past that one. Denise Christopherson's. This, that one's shady. It's a 620 square feet.
It has a porch. covered
But those are
porch.
pendings again. It just helps me to go through those. Am I gonna put those on my list? Not unless I absolutely have to, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to call them and ask for what, if they've been appraised yet, and what was their sale price. So if I did not have enough comps, I might use a pending, just like an appraiser would do, who's going to call them and ask for the right details.
So I have a.
Ooh, you guys were good.
We're all like.
So, back in the day, some class that I took, when we do the CMA portrait, active payments and solds, one of the things that they taught us to look at is the cost per square foot of actives, and it tells you what kind of market you're in, right? So that's a good,
If it's going up or down.
right,
Yes.
it helps you decide.
And I use that portrait all the time when I'm coming in for listing a house. So again, the CMA, just straight up CMA portrait out of the MLS, right? We're not gonna, we're gonna do out of Cloud CMA and make all our adjustments like an appraiser would do. Obviously, it would not take that long, but it's way more fun talking about these houses with you guys, right? So like, it wouldn't take that long if you were just at home, like, with it and stuff. But I use that now when I'm saying, okay, let's look at the market now. Today, right? If it's a hot market, I might say, you know what, without question, I could probably get a 15,000 extra from your appraiser. With no lease listed there, right? Or now that we know it's probably gonna come in an appraiser, appraisals will probably come in. Unless other homes sell for a higher value in the time that you're waiting for yours, then we need to have that difference in cash because we are confident on our price, right? So those are always helpful hits. All right, so did anybody else have a question? I did.
So on an ascending or a descending market, the pendings are always the most recent indicator of what's happening.
Yes.
So if you're doing your CMAs and kind of scooching the pendings to the side, you're looking at what sold. Well, if it sold 60 days ago and the market has jumped way up or gone way down, the pendings is where that story is going to be told.
It is.
So how do you?
You can add some pendings on there if you feel like you need to. And you can call everyone and tell them that story too. We can only work with the data that we have right now. And now if things close in time, that might add a couple of more into there and you know that house is gonna close, add that pending in there. As long as they've generally had their appraisal.
Yes.
You don't wanna add them in there if people are just gonna like say, hey, we got this great price and it's just didn't work, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, I usually ask for the close date because the.
Makes a
appraiser
sense.
Won't use it. It
Ton of
does not
sense.
close.
Yeah.
So, and I've actually had appraisers where I had a low appraisal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he comped it to something that was like 800 square feet small, manufactured home, mind you, but on its own land. Both of them were manufactured homes. And I said, but if you do the cost, he's like, I don't use cost effect, I don't have to.
no, because that's not what they're,
But they do per price, but you said to use.
They
price per
adjust-
square foot, I mean,
Yeah.
they were,
he didn't
Like I
adjust
said-
for square footage?
no.
Okay,
No,
well,
I mean,
each-
it was a benefit to my client because it was $18,000 less, which yay for them, but the seller was pissed.
yeah, I've fought them for both. I've literally used the same formula for fighting for somebody else's seller.
And that's what I was.
So we close.
Yeah.
It works really well and well, we'll keep going through this because we're running out of time, but I do want to say, like, if I'm fighting for my client, I may do them for the other person's seller. All right, let's go through this let's go through a little bit faster because we are down to 15 minutes and apparently my child likes to be picked up from school. That one is maybe a decent comp, but it's 830 square feet. Let's just see if we can find better ones. That one will probably be, oh, it's buyer investor. If I just see the word builder investor, you know, like I'm out. That one looks way older. That's 1955. It's 1,700 square feet. Seems like a dip. It does have rehab loan on that though. I do not know why.
Sometimes agents just put that on the house.
Just for funsies?
Yeah. Drives me crazy.
1961 still would be a really great comp. It's too much land. Too much house.
And land.
And
7
land.
acres.
All right, so we only have 2 checked, so we're gonna have to go back through here. So our choices are, I can either maybe expand the time past the 6 months. I could expand like the year of the houses, but I don't know if that makes a ton of sense to me. Or we can pick one of these other ones and adjust as needed. What would everybody probably do if they were gonna, give me some examples.
I might go to the one where you have Rosie Dorms.
The duplex?
No, that was Denise Christopherson.
Oh.
See, scroll up, is that? No. keep going
Sandy
back.
Place.
I think it would add, because you went backward in your time frame from a 1965, right?
Yep.
But that doesn't include 66, 67, 68.
So you'd want to go up to like 69.
Yeah, I would go forward.
Maybe go up a little in age.
Yeah.
Let's try it.
But Rose was close to June.
Yeah, but she said she's about 600.
You know what though? But there's a lot of houses that, I mean, we're starting to pick up right now. Things have been selling throughout this whole time without sitting on the market if they're priced right.
Yeah.
And we're getting multiple offers, 1 or 2 on many houses that we sell. Yes, absolutely.
Because if one is clicking, somebody
Maybe
else
it's
is
just
clicking.
one offer, but
Right.
a lot of things are still not sitting. You're not having this huge expanse on market unless it's just plain priced wrong. And that's your job to convey that information.
Can
Right.
you please, call these agents that I've got offers in on that have been on the market for 6 months? Because they don't get it.
I would love to call them and tell them all sorts of stuff.
Tell them all the things.
One thing I would say is like, is that this formula, when I'm doing a CMA, it gets me like 90% of the way there. And then there's always a 10% or so where it's like, this is feel right. You know, like a little bit of squishiness with all of them.
And that's where the portrait report comes in too as well. Like, what's the market really look like? Okay, we've got this. Now, how are we gonna market you based on the current conditions, right? This is 90% of the value. It's just like when I'm going to win a house. You guys, this is half of it.
Yeah.
It really sets my authority in the sand about how I know what I'm talking about in this business. But does that mean that explains to them or meets the needs or the conditions that they have as a person? No, I need a listing presentation. I need other things that I can sit and talk with them about. So pricing is critical and, you know, it's not everything. That has 2 acres, so I'm gonna add that one, you guys.
Oh, is that the one from Rosenberg?
Nope,
Down for
Lake Taps Chase.
so that green one's new.
And I would also say, you know, even that one has 2 acres.
Uh-huh.
You can still use this formula.
Absolutely.
It's a
So if I ran out of all
10,000
comps,
Square feet to
Yeah.
250,000.
Just for the age.
Right, there's gonna be a $200,000 price difference. And
let's
then,
see, what do I have
does
here?
that feel right?
Yes,
You know, you just.
it's a gut check, right?
Science.
So like I might do, how about this? We're still running out of time. Let's just stick with the 3.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
So I'm gonna do that portrait report.
Would you just click?
This is not where you'd go next. I'm just gonna do this really quick. So if somebody was talking about the portrait report, I might have had the actives, pending inspection, and sold within the last 90 days in Enumclaw altogether, and I might put that as a report. This is actually what most agents are bringing to their listing appointments, and that's it. I still use this report, but it's not all that I bring because it doesn't provide you making your house apples to apples to the neighbors, right? You know what I mean? So that's it. That's what they're bringing. That's what they're setting on the table.
So when you originally selected from.
This is not what we're doing today, though. We're better than this.
When you selected from my matrix, you go to CMA or do you go to the general?
I'm gonna go to CMA. So let me show you. In my guide, you guys, if you do not have Cloud CMA and you do end up getting it, you want to use it, and it's not connected to your MLS in the original guide that I wrote, I cannot remember MLS numbers. I am going back one by one, like 1, 2, 5. Okay, I forgot that part. 7, 3, 2, right? So it does show you how to copy paste it if you want to put it in that way. You'll notice on mine, because it's connected, I can just hit the Cloud CMA. Yes, I can just hit the Cloud CMA button and it puts it in there for me. God bless America. We'll just mark this class. And I will put the address of my house. It auto-fills it. You'll notice that it says it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. When I bought that house, it was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And it's been unpermitted gentrified by Anna. So it is a 3-bedroom, 1.2 bath, 1.5 bath, sorry. I put 1.2. I did.
I was wondering what that was. So one's a 3/4 bath with and then a half bath.
Yeah, and so I will have to take off the 2 off there.
Oh, so it's really just a 1.5.
It is 1560 square feet. It's got a 70/40 lot. Oh, 1963, I told you the year wrong. You're welcome. 1-car garage. And then it auto-fills those MLS numbers in there. So the one thing that I will say about Cloud CMA is do not let it pick its own.
Right.
No.
It is ugly.
That's why it's called quick and dirty.
It is quick and dirty.
It's dirty. So the easy part is also if you change your MLS password, it'll come in here and be like, you're not. That's the easy solution. You just go up to your little face up there, fix your password, the MLS, because I will tell you when you're in a hurry or you want to get stuff done and you won't log in, you're like, ah, it's just because you changed your MLS password. All right. So maybe.
She can neither confirm nor deny.
All right, so let's go through each one. I'm going to ask for people to help me kind of look at the differences in these. All right, we've got pictures we can scroll through. We love that. Gives us an idea. I flip fast like I'm a guy with a TV remote. I get it. It's got 2 full bathrooms, 1 3/4 bathroom. It's got a covered back porch. This one no longer does. It's got a deck. But the covered back porch that was built into the structure of the house is now that additional square
This
footage
house?
on mine.
Oh.
Yeah. So just so you know, there's no covered back porch any longer on it.
And it has that little shed, right?
It's
That
got an
little
outbuilding.
shed, Outbuilding is.
So like, let's go through each one of these. So we can start off with what would be the difference between my house and your house? Mine is 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath.
The size.
Yes,
Bathroom.
1560. I wrote you all the stats wrong. You're welcome.
The square footage.
Oh, so it's 15. Dang, you just really trying to throw us off. Are you sure that's the right address? Did you look it up? Okay, cool. Are we sure we're copying that house? It's different. This works really, really well.
I will confuse you as good as possible. Okay, so like, what's the first thing you notice on here that's different than mine?
The bathroom.
Yeah, the bathroom. So if I've got 1.5 and this is 2.75, so meaning 2 full bathrooms and 1 3/4 bathroom. Each full bathroom is 10,000. Each 3/4 is 7,500. Yep. So what would be the difference here?
Minus something.
Good.
17,500.
So we got one.
You take 17,500 away, and then for your half bath, you'd add, was it 3,500?
3,500.
17,000.
Yes, because a 3/4 bath.
But the 3/4 bath is 17.
It would be 1 full bathroom and maybe 0.25, so you still count that as a half bath.
What's the full bathroom
Yeah.
again?
10,000, so you'd be 1350.
1350.
Yeah.
Minus.
Yeah, so if this one has these options and I want to make it like mine, I'm going to say bathroom negative 13,500.
Say.
That one only had one.
This one has
So
2.75.
has 2.7.
So the next one would be square footage, right?
Yes.
So somebody with a calculator,
So we would add-
1560 minus 1410.
It's king. so
It is
it's gonna be
king.
$5 per square foot.
Minus 14, so 150.
Negative what?
150. Or 150
150
times
times, whatever.
It's 150 square feet.
8,000
Times 55. Say that again.
150 times 55, 8,250.
So would this be plus or minus? Because
Plus.
mine's bigger.
Plus.
Yes. 8,250, right? Yes. Okay. We can look up here. We can see that it's got natural gas, it's electric, it's got wood,
Did you say yours has AC or no?
no AC.
But it has updated kitchen, right?
It does.
And yeah, does it have?
It has a one-car garage.
And does yours have a shisha or whatever that?
No, no outbuilding.
No outbuilding, so we subtract.
The other one had a RV parking too, didn't it?
There's no additional for RV parking unless it's covered.
I thought the other one did.
No.
I don't know.
We're-
This
we're
has-
talking
this
is
says-
hers.
And you'll
Oh,
notice in here, you guys, in the thing, it says, on the heating, it was like electric, gas. Did you see heat pump?
No.
But it sure says it in the comments.
Yeah, right there.
Oh, okay, so.
Newer heat pump.
Yeah.
Newer.
So we'll just say heat pump, and that means
700.
negative or plus.
Negative.
Negative.
Okay. So, then the last thing that I think that everybody was really, like, we do have a very similar, we have do have a very similar lot. I don't see a ton of appraisers making adjustments on lot unless they're a big deal, right? So the difference between maybe my 9,000 square foot lot and somebody's 4,500 square foot lot is a postage stamp compared to that one. They would adjust for that. But if it's just like 8,000 to 9,000, they're not taking the time. They don't care.
In the comments, it did say, I think, second kitchen.
Okay. And an upgraded shower. I mean, that's
I
newer.
think that's what it said.
Two kitchens, not eight kitchens.
It says second kitchen.
Mhm.
Is it in the kitchen?
Yeah, because that other kitchen, I think had older cabinets, but maybe I'm thinking of a different house.
Is it in that little shed? What's that?
Where's the kitchen?
Where is it? I don't know.
Okay, so outbuilding, we know for sure. Let's go look through this. Who's looking through those pictures and can tell us if there's a second kitchen?
Maybe it's outdoor.
We'll say 9 is 15 for that outbuilding, yeah?
Yes.
That's a lot.
It's a lot for that little.
Okay.
I see it all the time though.
We can build that for $6,000.
If that.
Okay, that's,
Well,
yeah,
that's the main
regular
kitchen, that's the one,
Where's the kitchen?
we were already.
that was the regular kitchen right there.
So where's the?
We're gonna keep going. It looks like the
Still
same one,
same
doesn't it?
kitchen. It is, that's the same table and chairs, yes. So
Where's
same-
that second
it's
kitchen?
the same- I don't know, and then what are they showing outside, what's that?
That was that Insta hot water. I'm almost positive. Mhm. It looks like the same
There's that-
kitchen.
No, that one is actually.
That's different because the other one had
So
brackets
is
on the
that
walls,
a
right?
shed or something?
So where would you consider, I don't know where,
Private second part. But yeah, so the little kitchen thing, that little shed actually has a kitchen, it's
It
not
has
its
a
own.
studio.
Yeah, it's a studio.
Oh, okay, so it's 2 bedrooms plus the
A
studio.
dwelling.
Yeah.
Additional dwelling. Let me consider what dwelling, so you put your bed in the kitchen.
Well, it doesn't specify it.
I don't have 2 kitchens, right? I'm just gonna go ahead and put, oh, not right there.
Okay, right?
I'm just gonna put second K because it makes more sense to me.
Downtown.
Wow.
So
And then,
I think that's pretty good for that one.
How much did you?
I just put full 15. I mean, if they're between those
so
two
this is the
kitchens,
little shed thing.
So what are the appliances of that? There's no,
So that's.
well,
the
there's a
shed.
dishwasher. I'm assuming there's a kitchen. I don't think they just got another point of the kitchen.
is there a refrigerator there? I mean,
I'm sure that there is. But both those kitchens don't have them on the same wall. I'm sure that they're just behind them.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
A kitchen without a fridge would be weird. All right. So I'm gonna move on to the next one. 3-bedroom, 1.75 bath, and it's 1350. 2-car garage.
1.75.
So negative, but per
The other thing that we didn't adjust on here is I don't see a garage anywhere on this listing, so I get to add 10,000. Right?
plus 10K.
Yes.
So,
Okay, so this one has 2-car garage. What am I doing with that garage?
subtracting
Take away
10K.
one,
Yeah, negative 10.
negative 10.
But we're adding square feet.
You know, sometimes because I know I have to do the calculator part on the square feet, I go back through and I do all of the adjustments that I know off the top of my head, and then I just go back through and be like, fine, now I'll do all the calculator work.
Is there a difference between 1-car garage and 2-car garage? Or you still get
10,000 per bay,
per
per
car?
bay. So if I have a 1-car and they have a 2-car,
That'd be a 20,000.
negative 110, because we are making it like
I
mine.
know.
Okay.
I was trying to tell you, I know you're not like.
Okay, so this one again has,
11,550 on this.
all right, I'm just gonna put SF for time. Minus 11,550.
Yes.
Oh, wait, wouldn't that be positive?
What, would you say?
Go back up.
It's positive because yours is bigger.
You just take the minus off there. That's really easy. What about the bathroom? It's 1.75 and mine's
So we should
1.25.
take off of, no, I thought you said yours was 1.5.
Yeah, yours
1.5, that isn't that 1.5?
You
Yeah.
said 1.25.
Whatever.
So it would be a half that would be subtracted.
Right.
So 5K. No.
No, because you really have 1.75 and 1.5,
Five.
which is the difference between a 3/4 bath and a half bath. So you're really just more like the 3,500.
3,500, right? Yeah. So minus.
Yeah. Okay, no difference for sewer or septic either, you guys?
Oh, seriously?
No price adjustment for that?
Really?
No.
Now that's a mind blow.
If you go to the bathroom and it makes it go someplace, that's all they need.
No difference.
So outhouse, huh?
No outhouse.
I got an extra bathroom. Just for outhouse.
So here we're looking at the inside.
I was fooled by the.
That's a nice.
Yeah, I was fooled by the first pictures too.
Right, right.
No, that's original kitchen. 19. 'cause that's
Kitchen is
grandma's
old,
kitchen.
right?
Yeah, that's grandma's kitchen.
Ooh, with the big
Oh,
spoon and
Oh,
Come on,
I know
yellow.
that.
Go ahead, yellow.
I think that's a stage spoon and, fork.
All right, but
That ain't stage, that's grandma left it up in there.
someone at some point maybe upgraded this bathroom a tiny bit,
Except for the
but not
sink.
very much, right?
No.
So you really wouldn't give a ton of credit. I can see newer tile, but not the caps. So
No
I
upgrade.
then probably get 3,500.
Yeah.
And we didn't do the upgrade on the top one either. So let's start talking about that as well.
Okay,
That one, I still think it's 35,000.
for their kitchen.
There's nothing
Because
really upgraded about it,
Right.
except for that. So let's just say 25,000 for this
We're
one. Because
giving
they,
them or taking away?
We're
What up?
giving, we're giving.
I am
you
making
a-
it like mine, so I'm getting upgrade of 25,000.
So you're gonna
You're
subtract.
giving them credit for the upgrade.
You should add it.
Yeah.
She's giving herself credit. Literally, a positive on that is like a negative on this pitch.
Kinda.
When you're making those adjustments in each property you have.
Each property is gonna be adjusted to make it just like mine as best,
But you
as much
don't
as
do
possible.
any changes
So would that
over
be?
here.
No, because mine is what it is.
Yeah, they're updating.
I'm making these ones like that.
Yeah, they're,
Their
they're,
updates are negative, right, Ann?
yes.
I would be,
Bring it up there. Because
hold on though. I am making their property like mine, so I can add the 35. It's not negative.
Okay.
Because they did not have any
Was this the
updates.
first house or the grandma kitchen house?
This is the grandma kitchen house.
And it was
The
other
first house I also gave 25
Yes.
because they might have had some little adjustments around there, but it wasn't like fully upgraded anywhere.
Which means her house is.
Yes. Okay, last one. 3 bedrooms again, 2.75. Do you remember where our one from 2.75 was before? Yeah, so I just kind of sometimes scroll like, hey. Sometimes you find some that are very similar in square footage, same thing. I'm just like, I'm not redoing that math. And this was negative 13.5.
And then it's 1730 square feet versus 1860. So what's that?
Is somebody doing the math on the square footage? 1730 minus 1560?
170 times 55. Nope. Okay. 170 times 55. Do we got that? 93. Where's Hannah? 9350.
And that's plus or minus. So the square footage is at plus or minus. They're bigger than minus.
Yes.
Minus.
Minus.
Yep. Okay.
Wow, the house looks really nice on the outside.
Yeah, but there's some upgrades. They've got some granite countertops. There's again a 2-car garage. Look at these cabinets.
Cabinets are not updated. Is that actually granite?
That's granite.
That's grand.
Yeah. You know what? I would actually say that this kitchen has been updated in the last 10 years, probably. These cabinets are not original to this house.
Yeah. Lights.
They've got can lights. They've got a newer-ish fridge. The tile is pretty dated or whatever, but it's not like,
That's why I thought the cabinets were like.
it's not necessarily, they've still got, I mean, the bathrooms have been. So if I was gonna apples to apple this to my house, to the one that the one that I've been to, I would still say that they've probably done at least $25,000 worth of work in this house. And it would make sense if I could say, hey, I only have 10,000 additional in updates from this house.
So you're saying 10,000 updates?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
As a credit to me because there was more. But does that make sense? They've done stuff. Or I might even not even do anything. I like to do stuff and make it accurate. So if you have a high detail person, I might do every darn portion of this, right? Like they want to see every single little add, subtract, or whatever. If you've got somebody who does not want to know the details, then you're going to keep it just like bedrooms, bathrooms, updates, significant things. You don't need to go through and do everything. And appraisers often don't do every single tiny detail, and some do, right? They're all different people out there. So it just depends. Okay, so the other one is garage. They have a 2-car garage. And I have, yep. And I'm guessing there's a lot on here. Yep.
No, their lot's a lot bigger.
Their lot is a lot bigger. So if you were gonna do 30,208 minus, yeah, just use
22.
I don't remember what it is, obviously.
So it'd be say $22,000. If yours is 9,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I at the right one? Am I scrolling for fun? There we go.
There you are.
Okay. Is there anything else that's significant on this? 68? Not too bad. There's a storage shed. I don't know if we saw it, but let's do shed. It probably isn't. I mean, yes, you could look. I'm running out of time, so if you bear with me, I'm just going as fast as
What
possible.
about fencing? Does that make it? Does it?
I mean, it's-
Looking at her.
I know, Anna. So it doesn't, if it's fenced or not fenced.
and there's also a patio. Those are like this deck. I would also be adding credit for or deleting based on mine. At this point, let's just stick with what we got right now because we're over time.
Yeah.
So one little tiny weird thing is I go all the way back to customize and then I come back to the listing and see what the average is because for some reason it doesn't make the calculations right unless I go back there. And I don't know, accuracy seems to be a thing for me. And we came up with a sold average price of $576,813. I'll bet you if I had a couple other ones in there, I would probably come up with more of a sold price of like 546, something like that. Like if I had more comps in here to bring it up, that one comp made it pretty high. They're gonna know that comp exists though. Most likely, right? It's still important to make those adjustments and get it in there. And if you need to say it's kind of a one-off on that one, right? Like we can see that the general stuff is there. You might want to bring that information in as a separate piece of paper and say, yeah, I looked at this too, right? It's kind of a one-off. It's unusual. I actually got to talk to the agent. It was kind of an outside deal, whatever makes sense, right? And you're going to bring accurate information, obviously. You're not going to lie about it. But let's look at this. So this is the three same comps. The sale price was 588, 8 or 330. We made these adjustments and my sale price, and fortunately in this case, it's a tiny bit less, right? But it's a lot more accurate. Yeah. What if my client had said, hey, I want to be selling at 625 because that's the highest one on the market right now? Would that other piece of paper get me to where I want to be in that conversation? Probably not, right? This has so much data in it. Let's be honest. They think an appraiser is more of a professional than we are. They do. So it's important that we come in with systems that are repeatable and accurate in order to win that battle without having to fight about price. If I came in with this other report and it was like 588 and they said, well, why can't I just go to 625? I mean, that's what I want. There's already one in there, right? Like, how can I trust this? These numbers are all over the board on this. Like, we do need a couple more comps on this. It'd probably be more effective if I was able to get them. But that doesn't tell me anything. I don't have a leg to stand on if I'm trying to fight about prices. Yeah.
And that's why I go to days on market, days on market, all of a sudden there's some other indicators of why it took quite a while to get that higher price.
Yeah. Well, and this portrait report is the same one that I said I bring all the actives in, the pending sections within the last 30 days ago, anything active for as long as it's been active. And then the solds. And now I can look at those reports with them and say, okay, now that we know this, right, we're seeing that pendings are selling for much less, or the prices are jumping up, or, you know, the solds will only be the ones to tell you what the prices are jumping up, the pendings won't, right? Like nobody's saying, hey, I got 100,000 worth of this house. So, but we bring this in and I say, okay, here's our market data now, and here's your competition. Now that we know that everything's selling for about 10,000 less than what it listed for, or 20,000 more than what it listed for, let's make a really educated decision on it. And then they are also part of that conversation. Right. You don't have to try to tell them what we're working together or don't do something, right? Now that's a relationship. Yeah. And that makes you worth your money, by the way, because they're never going to figure that stuff out. They're never going to be able to come to you with all that market data. They're never going to say I can sell it for a sell by owner. Because they cannot figure that stuff out on their own.
Right.
But you can. Like,
Let's try to get it for random so we can get it together. In your conversation there in the pricing, do you take a look at concessions and have that conversation with them as well, or factor in the fact that this
appraisers will though. They always do. So I do that. So an appraiser, if there is a concession on a home, so say I sold it for 550 and then they offered 10,000 at closing, an appraiser does take that into consideration. That does not always mean they adjust the price for that though. Sometimes they still want the market valuation of that house. And so since it's kind of like 50-50, it seems like with them, I'm just going to do it without worrying about the concessions. Unless they're astronomical, obviously.
Carrying that conversation, it might not affect how you price it, but you carry that conversation with your seller and say, hey, in this marketplace right now, this is sold for, and they this concession.
I love prepping people for setting expectations for them. There's never a good surprise. So I'd rather just say, hey, here's what we could know. We're going to do the best we can to market this for the most amount of money and for you to sell right for everything that works for you. Okay? Anybody else have questions? Oh, want to look at that? Should I finish that one? All right, so we came up with the price. Let's just say it's the 576,813. I just stick with it. I no longer have to say, hey, here's a spread of numbers. We can do from 550,000 to 625. Who's gonna pick 500,000? Like, let me just be accurate with my pricing, and it shows confidence in our work. It shows confidence in what we're doing, and we have a system behind it that we can feel good about, right?
So I'm assuming you've already seen their house. Did you do a two-step
I don't.
listing?
Oh, you haven't seen that house.
No, I don't have to go in and see their house. I still am gonna come up with the same comps, and I might walk through and say, hey, there's some adjustments. You did some really nice upgrades in here. I want to add some value when I go home.
It's really bad.
Same thing.
Okay, so let's see what yours is.
Yeah. Like, generally that conversation, I wouldn't say, hey, this pretty looks like crap.
This house sucks.
No,
Right?
but I might say something along the lines of, hey, are there some repairs that you already know about that we should really be considering in the pricing of your house? Would you show them to me? I can walk through the door and know that there's a whole bunch of junk going on. Like, how many times do you get a call from somebody that says like, I upgraded my house and that stuff is shag green carpet? 1978 does not qualify as your upgrade, right? They might have told me that on the phone as I was talking to them, and now I have to adjust and say, I love all your upgrades, but an appraiser's only gonna count for the last 5 years. I've got to make some adjustments on this for accuracy. Cool, they respect that. All right, let's look at it really quick. And then I'll take some questions and then we're out of here. So this is what it looks like generally. I try not to print all the pictures. It's gonna be 34 pages long in color. When I'm walking through this with my client, I'm gonna bring in this information. Sometimes I'll stick that front page on the back so it doesn't just splash when I open this up. Like, I know that I might have to adjust. Like, sometimes you get gut feelings, like I might show up and that might be a whole different story, right? So I'll stick it in the back. And then I just generally go through 1.5 to 1 pages of how the adjustments look and how we did it so that they really understand. Your house has like 1.5 bathrooms. I said that right? And this house has 2.7, right? 5. I had to make an adjustment for that. Does that make sense, right? And they get that. Your house is a little bit bigger, so I gave you some credit for that, right? And then we just talk about just a couple of these. You do not need to go through each one. I don't even care if they're a high detail person. It'll take too long. They need to understand how it's working. And so sometimes I'll go through another one and just be like, similar things here, right? Like I was able to add and subtract for you, but I do walk through one at least so that they really, really see it. I print the whole thing. I don't care if it's a waste of paper, but I do not do tons and tons and tons of pictures unless I'm going to have to walk somebody through challenging them on what they think their value is worth. So if I'm going to walk in there and have to have somebody say, do you think this house is nicer than yours or has some different attributes that are better or worse than yours? I might make somebody walk through all those pictures. I might have them allow them to challenge what they think about the house. And it's not me telling them it's not good. Right? Does that make sense to everybody? Does everybody have a listing presentation? No listing presentation yet? I would love for you to get one. There are free, and there's a template that you can ask your leadership team again. If you don't have one, you just fill in your information on there until you want to build something, or if you ever do that's customized to you, but this can be customized to you, so you want to bring that in as well. Okay, and it's already made most of it fit, so you don't have to add content that you don't really notice yet, right? So, I mean, I had to go through that. I had to walk through the door and like, what kind of value do I have? What can I present for myself? What I have to do with that. This is gonna help. And then video is
Are these the standard templates that are within? Because I've been in,
you can adjust it each way.
there's,
25 million options. Yeah.
My resume that's like,
Yeah, I don't have a resume. That should be in your listing presentation in my mind.
Let's make a flyer now.
You could make a flyer.
Oh, the mic.
Yeah, so I use the Martha Lewis, and then I actually even take some out of that too, I think.
Okay.
the layout is 2 photos, but I can always have more photos or less photos.
I use the live. I don't
Oh,
know if
that's
you
great
guys-
too. It shows up a tiny bit different on the live version.
Okay, so go back to the page where.
The listings
actually where
page, right?
The CMA sits. You could see a live version.
Oh, yes. Let's shows up a tiny different. So if maybe if she was gonna make some adjustments when she got home, no matter what, she's gonna present that with the live version always. So maybe it's on a tablet, seems more digital, seems cleaner to everybody and easy to understand, or you don't want to print 8 million pages. I'm a tactile person. I like leaving stuff with people because like even my listing presentation, I print in like a hardcover. They take that to their next house. It is weird. Like they have my listing presentation in their bookcase half the time. It's the weirdest thing. I'm a tactile person. I believe in having something that has like, they think that I left them something that's important. Okay, let's go view live. But there are other people that are like, you know, if I was taking it to my kids and I brought a book that was bound with a listing presentation, they'd also be like, that's weird. So you can see like there's all these pages that I would not have picked on there.
You can delete out any of those things.
Yes, you can adjust and make this customized to you.
Like if you click on that online presentation, online guidance, whatever. So if you want to have a discussion about that, it's right there. It pulls up their estimate. And then if you look at go back to the comps page, go back to the
I got you.
and you go back to the comps page. So if you click on that, now you can see the houses in real time.
Well, that's snazzy too, right? Like I dig that. I never use it, but Linnea, I love you for that.
You can click on the house and you can look through all the photos with them at the time.
Yeah,
So let's say you click.
That's great. I love that.
Can you click on that house? Just, I want to prove it. Oh, cool.
So look at that. Like if I wanted to walk through with somebody and I didn't want to print all those pages, that might be a really cool way to do it. Now, if I wanted to leave them with something, I'd make sure I emailed it to them so they could go through the same stuff again later. Obviously, I've never done the online. But I mean, I think that's super great. It comes out really clear and professional, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So.
And then you can see the adjustment below too.
I wanted to make sure is that once you finish all the adjustments, you said you had to click something to be able to get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna look through here. Does it show the adjustments on this?
It does. If you
It's supposed to be
scroll
a click
halfway,
on it.
You can edit.
Oh, it says the down arrow like this, right there.
Maybe this thing's in my way.
The know your numbers is at 2:30. Yeah, in the same.
Yeah, I don't know. Where's the adjustments on this? Like if you were gonna look at your adjustments.
Click on the
click on
the
the
actual
picture.
house.
And scroll down.
It's
It
right
says
there.
right there, adjusted sold price.
Oh, look at how snazzy that is. Yeah, I like it. It's very cool that way. I do actually like that digital form and I do.
Grew up a little. Just knowing your numbers of your business, what you're spending. That's the next class.
Any more questions?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. We don't clap for ourselves enough.
Well, I just clap when other people clap.
I know, right? You do. I know. Ah, people say thank you, thank you. They're like, why did I say thank you? I compliment you.
Okay.